You've spelunked into the Matt Cave. Hello, everybody, and welcome into an episode of the Matt Cave that nobody was expecting. Well, maybe you were. Maybe you weren't. I don't know. But I hope you all had a Merry Christmas, are enjoying a wonderful Hanukkah, and had a great Kwanzaa. Whatever it is you celebrate, Festivus for the rest of us, whatever it is, I hope you are enjoying it or have enjoyed it, and you are ready for the new year as I am. My New Year's resolution is to not have a New Year's resolution. I think that's one I can hold, and I think if you want to adopt it as well, we'll all win. All right, so this week, I'll talk about the bowl game that BYU had. Wowee, what a game. And then I will also talk about the Utah Hockey Club not really doing well at the Delta Center. And then the Jazz a little bit as well. So this might be a quick hitter episode. I wasn't really expecting to record one, but that performance by BYU kind of it rustled me up. It got my juices flowing for one more episode. One more episode to ring out 2024. As always, please rate, review, like, subscribe, comment, wherever it is, however you listen. Helps me out a ton. Helps us get more spelunkers in here. And you are all wonderful people. Never forget that. You're wonderful people and you're a spelunker. So there you go. You can put that on your resume. I wouldn't, but you can. All right, let's dive into things. BYU, Colorado. In the lead up to this game, it was all Colorado, as it should have been. And let me kind of talk about this a little bit. It's, when it comes to the national media, you need superstars. You do. Superstars drive the boat when it comes to ratings, when it comes to clicks, when it comes to all of that stuff. And what does BYU not have? They don't even have a star, let alone superstar. They've got a bunch of good players, just good football players. That's what BYU has. Colorado has two legitimate superstars and a mega super massive star as a head coach in Coach Prime. That's why the narrative was all Colorado going into this game, and even during the game, it was all Colorado. That's what was going to drive the viewers, the neutral observers, to watch the game. And so there are a lot of BYU fans online that are expressing sour grapes. I was going to say a different term, but they're expressing their sour grapes about how the national broadcast was being handled, about how BYU was up 27-0 and they were still glazing the Colorado Buffaloes. That's because they're the national media. The national media thrives on superstars. BYU does not have a superstar. They don't even have a star. None of those guys are going in the first two rounds of the draft. None of them. But Colorado has two that could go 1-2 for the first time since the year 2000. So that's why the narrative seemed Colorado heavy or just all Colorado. But Vegas, going into the game, the betting line started at 5. Colorado was a 5-point favorite by kickoff. That shrunk to a 2-point favorite. So Vegas knew better. And if I were a betting man, I would have slammed that bet. I would have made some cash. I really would have. To have BYU win and cover. And they also covered the spread, too. So, overall, great night from the Cougars, except for the offense. I'll get into that here in a little bit. But I wanted to explain a little bit of what goes on behind the scenes of national media. I have been trained in this. I do have schooling in this. And so I have a different view that I want to kind of let you in on. And so heading into the game, what do people across the country know? They know Coach Prime. Everybody knows Coach Prime. They know Travis Hunter, quite possibly the best college football player we've ever seen. And they have Shedeur Sanders, arguably the best quarterback in this draft class. Not to mention, it's the final game, potentially. We'll see what happens. But it's the final game that Coach Prime will be coaching his two sons, Shiloh and Shedeur. That's big news. Any neutral observer would want to tune into that. What would a neutral observer not want to tune into? And I'm talking to all you BYU fans out there, listen closely. If you had that storyline and it wasn't against BYU, you would tune in. I know I would. The final game of Coach Prime and his two sons. And then you have the Travis Hunter experience. And then you have BYU. What do you talk about with BYU that hasn't already been talked about ad nauseum? A team of nobodies, really. A team of a bunch of guys that were not picked to do anything this season. Got as high as number 6 in the college football playoff, the highest ranking that BYU has had since the BCS/college football playoff was a thing, which goes back to like the year 2001 or something like that. And that's about it. You've got Jake Retzlaff, a quarterback who is not a good quarterback, and I will die on that hill. He's not a good quarterback. And you have just a solid team. Would you tune into that if you were a neutral observer? If that's what was being talked about? A middling to not very good quarterback and a team in the preseason that was picked to finish next to last in the Big 12? I wouldn't. I haven't been. I haven't been watching any of these bowl games this year except for this one. This is the only one I've watched and probably will be the only one I will watch. I don't care about the college football playoff. I explained it last week. The fun is out of it now that they had the field set. You know, the blowouts happened. Everybody's complaining now and everybody's whining. It's like, this is what you wanted. You wanted to expand the college football playoff. I guess there are 2 tragedies in life, not getting what you want and then getting what you want. So that's where we're at with all these people complaining. But this bowl game was fascinating to watch. BYU came out with their hair on fire. It was something that I haven't seen from BYU since, I would say, end of October, maybe beginning of November with this team. And during the broadcast, they were saying this is the team that got to number 6 in the country. The injuries have all either gone away or aren't as prevalent, and this team is ready to go. And that's what we saw. We saw a defense masterfully called and masterfully coached by Jay Hill and his staff. I forgot how good of a defense this actually is. If we just look through the past with what BYU did on defense this season, they only gave up more than 30 points once, and that was in that crazy game against Oklahoma State. Other than that, everything was below 25. Well, below 28. Baylor got a garbage touchdown at the end of the game. But this defense was legitimate. And a lot of the guys are coming back. They'll have to replace the defensive line. Everybody on the defensive line is graduating. But the secondary is returning mainly intact. They're only going to be losing Jacob Robinson, who had a very good game. And then the linebacking core coming back intact. Glasker, Taggart, and Kelly, GTK, that linebacking core could be one of the best in the country. So this is a great reminder to Cougar fans everywhere. Oh, yeah, they also gave up 28 points to Arizona State. That's a game everybody would like to forget, and I did. And now we go into this offseason in a much better place than we did last year. So this game, let me talk about it. BYU came out hair on fire. They really, truly did. The final score is 36-14. At halftime, it was 20-0. At one point, it was 27-0 BYU over the reigning Heisman winner and arguably the best quarterback in the draft. That defense shut down the Colorado offense. The Colorado offense had no answer to anything BYU was doing except for the occasional huge play by the Heisman winner, which is what you would expect. Angles on tackle, none of that stuff means anything when it comes to Travis Hunter. That's why he was able to do what he did on just 4 catches, 106 yards and a touchdown. So he got his, but nobody else ate. And that was the key. And I loved seeing that because that is one of the basic tenets of calling a defense is if they have a superstar, yeah, that guy's going to eat. Just don't let anybody else on the team get anything done. And that's what Jay Hill did with this defense. It was incredible. A great send-off for Tyler Batty, who will be playing on Sunday. He's not a top 2 rounds pick. He's not. He'll go 3rd, 4th, 5th round. But as we've seen with other BYU players, that doesn't really matter. Puka was a 5th round pick. Tyler Algier was like a 6th or 7th round pick. And they've been doing just fine. Taysom Hill wasn't even picked. And Fred Warner, 2nd rounder. Kyle Van Noy, 2nd rounder. So this defense, I just want to hammer it home. Best in the Big 12, statistically. and one of the best in the country. They had the most interceptions in the country. And what was even better about that is that wasn't due to one guy. 12? I think 12 different players had an interception. And 6 of those players had 2. That's incredible. That's team defense. And so that's really hard to talk about when you're the national media. There's nothing to talk about there. It's a great team defense. Well, how do you explain that to average Joe from Hannibal Mow? You can't. You can explain star power. You can explain a Heisman winner and a top pick in the draft and an NFL Hall of Famer turned head coach. You can explain that. What you can't explain is BYU. That's why the broadcast and everything leading up to the game was all about Colorado. Now, let's get to the offense. LJ Martin, legitimate. I think if he stays healthy next year, he's going to have a monster year. He's a big dude, like 6'2", 220 some odd pounds. And he's a patient runner. A couple of his biggest runs in this game came from him being patient. And it was a joy to watch him run the ball. It really was. And he had a couple of catches out of the backfield that looked really good. Now, the rest of the team. Not great. Jake Retzlaff. Oh, boy. 12 of 21, 151 yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Both of them his fault. Technically 3, if you count that 2-point conversion. Couple of drops. I won't hold those against Jake Retzlaff. There were a couple of drops, mainly by Keelan Marion. But during the broadcast, I caught something that the commentator said. And it was the coaching staff at BYU firmly believes, that Jake Retzlaff will be, not could be, will be, a top 5 quarterback next year in the country. Not the conference, the country. If that happens, that means the state of football in college football is in a worrisome spot. I'll say that. I don't see a world in which Jake Retzlaff is a top 5 quarterback in anything but the state of Utah. He's not good. He's not. He has a couple of wow throws, but when you are a quarterback at the Division I level, especially in a Power 4 conference, those wow throws are kind of expected. You have to be able to make those throws at that level of competition. You do. What I see from Jake Retzlaff is not smart. He doesn't play smart. The shovel pass, you eat that. 10 times out of 10. That shovel pass interception, you eat that. The pitch to LJ Martin was covered well, and then the shovel pass was covered well if he just looked. He didn't look, he just threw it. You take a quick peek, you see it's covered, you just take it, you just slide. All right, it's done, we slide. That didn't happen. The interception in the end zone. Nobody was open. Throw the ball away. Just throw it away. I don't know why Jake Retzlaff is so he doesn't want to throw the ball away to live another down. So instead of 3 points, which is what it would have been because that was a third down, it was 0. Thank goodness this defense is one of the best in the country, is all I have to say. Moving forward, with Jake Retzlaff at quarterback, because they're not going to bring in anybody to challenge him. They're not going to bring in anybody that could take it over from him. I wish they would, but they won't. They're enamored with him. They need LJ Martin to have a Doak Walker type of year for Jake Retzlaff to even sniff the top 50 quarterbacks in the country. So let me read out some stats for you that I just took a look at last night. In the final 5 games of the season, dating back to the Utah game, here's some stats for Jake Retzlaff. A potential top 5 quarterback in the country if you are Aaron Roderick and crew. 76 completions on 139 attempts. That's barely above 50%. That's not good. 1,075 yards in 5 games. That's roughly 200 and what is that? 215? That's average at best. That's below average. 2 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. Yeah, in 5 games, 2 touchdowns. No. That in no world is that a top 5 quarterback. A top 5 quarterback is Shadur Sanders, Cam Ward. From last year, Bo Nix. Like those are top 5 quarterbacks. Dylan Gabriel, not Jake Retzlaff. And he didn't even look that good against Colorado. The commentators were trying to build him up, saying, oh, he's healthy again, he looks good, he's making wise decisions. He's not making wise decisions. He's missing open receivers. The first 2 throws of the game, he missed his receivers. They credited Keelan Marion with a drop on that first play. I would posit it was a bad throw. It was behind him. If Jake Retzlaff laid that out in front of Keelan Marion, it was a touchdown. Same thing with that throw to LJ Martin on the wheel route. He put too much sauce on it. He overthrew him. LJ Martin was credited with a drop. No, that was a bad throw. So overall, I am going to need a bunch of Tums next year because Jake Retzlaff is the quarterback. And with the new ruling that I'll get into in my review of the entire season for BYU, he could be around for 2 years, should he decide to do so. Because JUCO athletes, there was a ruling that the NCAA got in front of because the court ruled against them, but then they got in front of it for everybody so that not all of the players sued them, that a year of eligibility does not count against you if you played at a junior college and transferred to a Division I school. So guys like Darius Lassiter, Jake Retzlaff, those guys can have another year or 2 of eligibility when it comes to Jake Retzlaff because he's only a junior. But suffice it to say, I'm not looking forward to the next 2 years, potentially, of quarterback play at BYU. Mm-hmm. But that defense, Jay Hill sticking around at BYU, I think is the biggest recruiting get that BYU had during the recruiting and transfer portal season, bar none. There is nothing no player that BYU could have gotten that would match what Jay Hill can and has done with this defense. The 1 year turnaround that Kalani Sitake and Jay Hill have done, oh my goodness. If they were managed to get 9 more points, Kalani Sitake was coach of the year, and Jay Hill probably coordinator of the year. The Art Broyles Award is what that's called. Whew. Fun game, though. If you didn't catch it, I hope you can find it somewhere. It was a fun game to watch if you're a BYU fan. Or a Colorado hater. There's a lot of them out there. And that really, this is for another episode, but I love Coach Prime. I love what he's doing. And all during the game, Coach Prime was helping BYU players up during the entire game. Chase Roberts went down with an injury. He went over and helped him up. Blake Mangelson at the start of the game was out with an injury on the Colorado side of the field. Coach Prime walked over to make sure the kid was okay. I don't understand the Coach Prime hate. I love Coach Prime. I really do. All right, let's move it on. That was enough about BYU. Holy crap. Sorry about that. 16 minutes of BYU football. And I haven't even done the review of the season. Those are to come. All right, let's move it on to the Utah Hockey Club, and they just can't win at home. They had a 3-game homestand, lost every single game. They had a 4-1 lead against the Anaheim Ducks. 4-1 going into the third period. And they lost in a shootout. So they're now 0-2 on shootouts this season, both at home. Then they went ahead and lost to the Dallas Stars. Kind of expected. Dallas is above Utah in the standings by 3 points. And then they lost to the Avalanche in a stinker of a game by Utah. I have a lot of qualms with Ryan Smith and the way he has designed the seating and the advertisements around the rink. My biggest one is those black banners behind the goals. Every team that goes through says they hate it because the goalies and the defensemen cannot see the puck. That's both teams have said that. How hard is it? Now, I don't know if the NHL is barring the hockey club from changing the color of those banners to, white or even the blue. But that is a real detriment to what is going on with the hockey club and why they can't win a shootout at home. So let's look at their record, their home and away split. Away, they're 11-6-2. 11 wins, 6 losses, and 2 overtime losses. At home, they're 5-7-4. They've only won 5 games at home. 7 losses, 4 overtime losses. In the West, that's the worst home record in the West. In the NHL, it's the worst home record in the NHL. That means something's going wrong with Ryan Smith, with Bill Armstrong, and how they have everything set up. It's not good. And if you want to keep the good vibes flowing, we got an NHL team in Utah, zippy dippy hooray. If your team is losing at home, fans aren't going to come watch their team lose. They're just not. And I know they are with the Jazz, but the Jazz have been here for, 40 some odd years now, 50 almost? It's kind of an institution. It's just what you do on a Thursday night. That's kind of what it is in Utah with the Jazz. You go to a game, go to a game, then go grab a meal, or grab a meal and then go to the game. It's just what it is. With the hockey club, they're not there. So something needs to change at home when it comes to the hockey club. I don't know what it is. I'm not as well versed in hockey as I am in basketball and football. But it's something. There's something missing when it comes to the hockey club playing at home. Now, their last 10 games, they're 6-2-2. That's fabulous. That's a better 10-game streak than Minnesota and Dallas, who are both ahead of them in the standings. They just need to figure out what's going on at home, because this 3-game losing streak, all games were at home. Their next game is on the road, thankfully, against Seattle and the Kraken. But my frustration is mounting. The veneer of, yay, we have a hockey team is wearing off, and it's like, all right, why can't you win at home? Figure it out. Do something. And if it's as simple as changing those stupid banners behind the goalies to a different color, do it. All right, let's move on to the Jazz. Just really quick. The Jazz, well, they keep losing, and they lose in the right way. They lost to the Cavaliers by 11. They lost to the Trailblazers by 2. That's a game they had to lose. I talked about it last week, but that was a game they had to lose. And then they lost to the 76ers by 3. Fabulous. That's exactly what you want to do. I've been preaching it all season. I will continue to preach it. Lose games, but lose tight games. Don't get blown out, because nobody learns anything in a blowout. Lose the tight ones. Have the veterans that you're going to trade look good. Guys like Colin Sexton. You know the ones. Colin Sexton, John Collins. Jordan Clarkson is apparently being shopped around. I hate that. Keep him. I'm going to keep saying it. He likes to be here. That is so rare for an NBA player that likes to stay here in Utah. Keep him. I want him to retire as a Jazzman. But this is correct. What happened against the Pistons and the Nets and the Trailblazers early in the season needs to stop. And the front office needs to put an end to it by trading away those veterans. The dominoes are starting to fall now for trade season. D'Angelo Russell was dealt by the Lakers to the Nets. That will set off a chain of events that will hopefully lead to the Jazz playing their young guys for the majority of the season. That's what I want to see. All right, that's the episode this week, everybody. Thank you all so much for listening all year and for the past 4 years. It will be 5 years here next month of me doing this show. So thank you all so much. And I will see you all next week. Maybe. We'll see. When we spelunk back into the Matt Cave. Happy New Year, everybody.